Hi there, everybody. This is a bit of a different video. Well, it's a super bit of a different video from what I normally post. I normally do like psychic readings and spiritual stuff, but today I kind of just wanted to get into something, more serious, but also try to have some fun with it as well, because I want to bring awareness to what's going on, because a lot of the times, my diagnosis is BPD, borderline personality disorder, and bipolar 1. A lot of the times when I tell people I have BPD, they're like, oh yeah, bipolar. And I'm like, no, that's not, that's bipolar. That's not BPD, but, that's just the first step. A lot of people are very uneducated about these two diagnoses, and especially with how they collide. It was extremely hard to get my diagnosis. The only reason I wanted to get it is so that way people can understand on paper what in the world I'm trying to tell them, because it's already so difficult. So thanks for joining if you're new here, which most likely you are, because this is completely out of the range of my normal videos. Like I said, spiritual stuff. Disclaimer, I am not a doctor. This video should not be used as a diagnostic tool. Please see a doctor if you have any concerns, more than like 3 or 4, I think it is, of the symptoms technically. And yeah, so I have everything on my computer. Again, my diagnosis is BPD, borderline personality disorder, and bipolar 1. I believe there's 2 types of bipolar 1 and 2. I don't know too much about 2, so I'm not even going to try to get into that, but that is my diagnosis I have on my computer. It would look very bad if I tried to show you all this, so I'm not going to. But I am referencing verywellmind.com/borderline-personality-disorder-symptoms-425175 for the borderline symptoms. And then for bipolar, I am using mayoclinic.org, diseases-conditions/bipolar-disorder/symptoms-causes/SYC-203555955. Just so I don't get copyrighted. The reason I want to have the symptoms up on my computer is so I can look through them, read you what the computer says, and then tell you how accurate it is. And then at the end, I'm going to describe what it's like combining the two, and then what each one is like on its own without the symptoms. Okay, so we're going to start with borderline personality disorder. Now, in my words, what is borderline personality disorder? Well, the first thing I like to say is that it is a healable disorder. Unlike many of the personality disorders, you don't require medications for it all the time. Basically what that means is that you will not have to live with medications for the rest of your life if you try to heal the traumas from it, because it is a trauma disorder. EMDR, so like elephant, Mary, dog, rhino. EMDR therapy is the most helpful therapy you can get. Obviously, communicational and EMDR should be used at the same time to keep you in check and make sure you're okay. But EMDR is a rapid eye movement process therapy, and it literally helps you go through your trauma. And the usual explanation is that it puts stored traumas and things you can't remember because you never processed them from how traumatic the thing was. It puts them from that side of the brain to the working side of the brain that processes everything, so that way our unknown triggers don't happen anymore. Maybe we can start to actually recognize our triggers once we process these traumas, and everything will be so triggering. And then also it really starts to get rid of almost all the symptoms that you have over time, because you don't really see people with BPD that say, yeah, I had a good childhood, it was cool. Unless they went through like the most traumatic, there's got to be trauma somewhere for you to have BPD. Again, I'm not a doctor, so maybe someone wants to diagnose you with BPD, but it probably should just be bipolar. It's a trauma disorder. That's about it. You had a bad childhood, had a bad teenage life, had a bad adulthood, whatever it is. Couldn't process it, and now you can't process anything normally. So yeah, that's like a little description of BPD. I have gone through EMDR. I have healed a lot since I was younger. I am telling you, it is so horrible. Like, it is so horrible that I haven't done EMDR on the BPD symptoms I experienced, that it was so bad. Like, I'm having a hard time remembering everything I went through because of how bad it was. It probably stored itself in that same trauma brain. But as soon as I read all this stuff, I know I'm going to remember exactly what happened. So let's start with the first one on the list. We have fear of abandonment. People with BPD tend to have difficulties in their relationships. In particular, people with BPD can be very sensitive to abandonment. They may believe they are being left by someone when that is not actually the case at all. Since the fear of abandonment can be so strong and pervasive, people with BPD often engage in behaviors meant to provide reassurance that the other person still cares about them. For example, they may call someone repeatedly asking for confirmation that the relationship is still intact, or physically cling to others when they attempt to leave. So that is very true. Not everybody has this abandonment symptom, but it is extremely common. Like, I would say 80% in BPD survivors, warriors. Because like I said, it's a trauma thing. And a big part of it was feeling, abandoned as a kid. And because of that abandonment, it stays. And it turns you kind of into the person you are. You're like, okay, this person's going to leave me, and I can't handle that. I don't want to go through that again. And instead of just like, a normal processing, thinking person would be like, okay, if they leave, I'll just find someone else, or I'll be okay by myself. I'm stable. I'm strong, We don't get that. It's like, you stay. You stay here. That's all. Great. And if you don't, I'm going to cry and cry and cry and probably end up in the hospital because of how freaked out I am. So basically, let's say, like that can also have to do with relationships. I think this is coming up next, but relationships and your abandonment. Relationships and abandonment. So my first love was the most intense love I've ever felt in my life. My BPD started very young, like before anybody cared to diagnose it as it, because they're like, oh, you're too young. You don't know what I've been through. Anyway, yeah. I had my first love when I was 13, and it was such an intense feeling, which I'm sure it could be for anybody, but I'm talking intense, like to the point where my heart would hurt, and I would literally, my blood pressure would go up, my anxiety would rise and hurt. Everything was just, like that's how everything felt, It wasn't, I couldn't calm it down. I couldn't normalize it. And once that person left me, that is when my life completely down spiraled. That's when the real suicidal ideations, ending up in the hospital, depression, that real stuff, it really started. Because I already had it before. But experiencing that abandonment once over from somebody I thought loved me, instead of just saying, things happen, I wanted to end my life. So that's a big thing, It gets better over time. You just have to be able to process it. Instead, this can also come with narcissism. And we may seem like narcissists because if someone's showing disinterest, talking to us less, maybe they're just busy, or maybe they really don't want to be with us anymore. We're like, okay, what's going on? Where are you? You're not responding to me. What is going on? I'm going to kill myself. You've probably heard like some people like that. I'll be honest, I'm not a saint. I was kind of like that when I was younger. I eventually grew out of it when I realized how horrible it was. And I do apologize. It was pretty bad, but I stopped. It is a real thing, and I'm here to admit that. So that's that. And then next we've got unstable relationships. So kind of going into what I just mentioned. Let's see. So it says BPD is often associated with patterns of very unstable and intense interpersonal relationships. A pattern of alternating between idolization and devaluation in relationships is common, a process referred to as splitting. 100% correct. This is very common in BPD, and if you don't do this, it's very likely that you don't have it. Unlike the abandonment can be if or, but the relationships thing is a big, recognizer of it. That person either seems like a god above to us, or they are the scum beneath our toes. When the devaluation phase emerges, however, the person with BPD may see the other person as worthless, mean, or uncaring. Yes. So what this means is that, let's say I'm talking about my mother. My mother has raised me from day one. As soon as she tells me, she's mean to me, because we all have bad days. I don't think we all have bad days. I think she hates me. I think there's no one worse than her. That's just an example. Let's say you're in a relationship with somebody and they don't respond to you within 5 hours. You're like, yep, you're cheating on me. That's it. I'm done. I can't freaking believe you. You're a terrible person. And then they'll be like, look, calm down. And then I'll be like, you know what, whatever. And then an hour later, I'll be like, oh, I love you. You're the greatest thing ever. That's a really easy thing to explain. It also says, in fact, a person with BPD often feels disappointment in or even hatred towards loved ones. They also have difficulty recognizing the feelings of others or empathizing with others. So I did have empathy as a kid. It slowly got less and less, but the maturity also went up. But yeah, having trouble realizing that person is probably busy, that didn't occur to me. All that occurred at the time being was, this person isn't responding, so I must be the worst freaking person in the world. That's about it, and that's the easiest way to explain it. Next we have impairment in identity. The same instability in relationships can also apply to self-image or sense of self. A person with BPD may seem to believe that they are successful one moment, but the next may be extremely self-denigrating or hard on themselves. Their sense of self may also be unstable, which may lead them to behave differently in different contexts or social groups. Okay. In addition, a person with BPD may feel non-existent or unsure about their identity or role. They may feel like they don't know who they really are as a person or what they believe in. Very true as well. I'm probably going to say very true to all these, so I'll probably just stop doing that. But, yeah. One moment I could feel like, yep, this is exactly what I've got going. I've got this big plan. I'm going to start it all right now. Everything is perfect. I am literally going to be God in 5 minutes. It doesn't happen in 5 minutes. I get discouraged. I'm useless. I'm worthless. It's never going to happen. That comes with that impulsivity. That we're going to cover next. It's reckless behavior. And it's hard to recognize that things need time. That's where the impulsivity and the identity part kind of, goes together. And, it's literally like that. Or even I could feel so good about myself one day and be like, I'm going to get a job as a doctor. I'm going to start studying as a doctor. I feel so good. Look at me. I'm great. Hey guys, you want to go to the club? Let's chill. Because I feel great. I am God. And then 10 minutes later, getting ready, and I'm like, no, these people hate me. They're just trying to make me feel, bad about myself. They're going to embarrass me there. They don't really want me there. I'm ugly. I'm just going to cancel. No in between. There's no rational thought process there. Normal people would probably just go and be like, yeah, if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, whatever. Or maybe ask them, are you guys positive? That's a little bit of reassurance. That's okay. Not just no. So the next biggest, most day-to-day impairing thing, impulsivity. Many people with BPD exhibit risky, impulsive behaviors, such as spending sprees, having promiscuous sex, driving recklessly, misusing drugs or alcohol, binge eating, or, not eating enough, breaking the law, like, getting that adrenaline rush, robbing banks, shoplifting, I've never robbed a bank, but no. All of it is extremely correct. And it says often leads to problems with relationships, physical health, or legal issues. Yes. The biggest day-to-day thing is having drug addiction, alcohol addiction. I still to this day struggle. And it has gotten better. It has, but not for everybody. I am one of the lucky ones. I was an opioid addict, and I couldn't stop it. And then I also became a cocaine addict, and I was drinking all the time. And it was like, a lot of people can try to wean off of it, but for me, it was the hardest because I would sit there and think, I can't process without it. I'm a complete lunatic without this stuff. And then the withdrawal period for me was like BPD plus bipolar times 5. And I'd have to be hospitalized each time, not because of my physical health, but, that too, but mostly because of my emotional health. It just, it was the worst. So there's drugs, and then there's spending way too much. You're like, oh, I got $50, so let me spend 40. And then the next day you get a charge, comes out of your account, and now your account's overdrawn by 70. If you would have saved that money, it wouldn't be so overdrawn, Not thinking before buying. Binge eating or not eating enough. My whole life I have had body disorder. I would go from anorexia to, bulimia to just eating normally, eating too much, going back to anorexia. That also came with because I have PCOS and I never got diagnosed with it. So I never recognized how hard it was to lose weight. I have a really, really, really unstable body image. I still do to this day, but it's gotten a little better to where I just don't care anymore. Driving recklessly. Sometimes I would go like 100 miles on the highway for no reason. And, sorry, I had to plug my phone in. The promiscuous sex part. My BPD really spiked in 2020, just out of nowhere, probably the addiction. And I gained a very large body count in just a year. So it is all very true. It's all really rough. Of course, the sex part comes with STDs. You're exchanging energy with a bunch of different people. That brings a lot more instability, more health issues, more emotional issues. The driving recklessly, you can get in a wreck, you can get pulled over, you could go to jail, tickets, that's more towards the spending. And then spending sprees, losing all your money, that financial instability, breaking the law, of course. I used to shoplift when I was younger. I wasn't bad about it. I would steal like beef jerkies and stuff. But, it was that adrenaline rush. I'm like, I need to do something bad, I mean, like, that's not just part of BPD, but that's like one of the impulsive parts. Next, we have self-harm or suicide. Okay. One important part of this, the rest is pretty self-explanatory, but people who self-harm rarely do so when others are present. Instead, you may see signs of self-harm, including scarring or wounds from cutting, burning, or other forms of self-injury. So with this one, I'm not too positive how separate it is from bipolar just yet, because I think that's a symptom of both. That's probably why it was so intense for me when I was younger. Ever since I was 10 years old is when I started to self-harm. And it never stopped until I was about 18. The suicidal ideations, they kept going. I made full attempts. I kept ending up in the hospital. All the way till I was about 15 years old when my first love had died of an overdose. That's what kind of made me wake up a little bit. Things got rough again around like 16, 17-ish. and then I started trying a little bit to try and, the suicide attempts, but I never really fully did it. The only time I did was when I got back into the drugs after 2018. This was last year, actually. And I ended up overdosing because I took a lot of the opioids. I had to drive myself to the hospital because I could barely see. And then, they sit there at the counter and they're like, so what's your name? Make sure you keep your mask on. I know you can't breathe and you're about to pass out. It's okay. Oh, I'm not even going to ask how you got here. How about your insurance? Oh, I don't know. Just ranting. But that is a good example of that. It was rough. Like, my parents called me crazy. Like, I had a huge hospital just record, and people constantly diagnosing me with stuff, and it never worked. Next one is emotional instability. This one is what you usually associate bipolar with. The thing is about BPD is that they are intense. I'm seriously saying intense feelings. Like, it feels like a kid waiting for Christmas for every single emotion. For the pain that you feel, it feels like you're literally being stabbed. And that's just for something small too. So imagine how it feels when you really get hurt. That's usually when we end up being hospitalized, having problems with our, self-harm or suicidal ideations. Also, let's see. Intense. Yeah. So that's one of the big things with BPD is that our emotions switch. They can switch hourly. They can switch by the minute. They can switch by the hour or the day. Bipolar, the difference with that is usually the episodes last like around weeks or a month or so, and then they just go away. With BPD, it's like literally every 3 hours, every 5 hours, within an hour. It just changes. I could be completely happy one moment, feeling the breeze in my hair, like driving, feeling nostalgic, and then all of a sudden I'll just have this gloom over me and I will literally want to kill myself for no reason. And that's when I'm like, okay, I'm gonna drive my car into this ocean. I'm like, where did that even come from? It's insane. Like, it's not small. I have to reiterate that I cannot stress it enough that it is not just a little bit or even a medium amount or even a large amount of sadness or depression or happiness. It is up here in craziness. Like, how a normal thinking person would feel with extreme excitement or extreme sadness, we would feel for anything regular. Like, maybe somebody called us ugly. For the rest of the day or for the rest of the hour, I'm losing my mind. I feel like I should kill myself, all that stuff. Very intense. Next one is feelings of emptiness. So, yes. The feelings of emptiness, it's pretty self-explanatory as well. I didn't start feeling the feelings of emptiness until about 2018. Before that, it was just those intense emotions. You still get both, but also after those intense, horrible emotions stop, I didn't get many of the happy ones. It was always the pain, the sadness was super intense, and then I would just go right back to emotionally numb. I would feel nothing. Like, what does love even feel like anymore? What is it like being happy? I can't remember. It's like a constant numbness. That was how it was for me. It didn't really change from the happiness to sad after 2018. It just kind of went from one day I will feel like God. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to Barnes & Noble. I'm going to get some books. I'm going to start healing. I'm going to feel better about myself. As soon as I get home, back to the terrible depression, the hysteria, the anxiety attack, awful. And then that happy moment never comes back. Feeling of emptiness, just can't feel anything. That's one of the worst parts, is because that leads me to more of the self-harming behaviors, That's a big thing that led me to the drugs, because the drugs made me relax and feel something, feel a little bit happier and enjoy life a little bit more. It's sad, but it was true. The next one, this was a new one for me, but it's intense anger and aggressive behavior. They say it's a common sign with BPD, but I didn't experience this symptom until right around 2018 as well, when I became an adult. It was weird because all my life I was very soft to other people, very shy, extremely secluded, very much of a loner, horrible emotional issues, all that. But I never had the anger. My brother did. He was very angry. I didn't get the anger until like 2018. But once I got that anger, I felt it. And it's hard to stop. It is like having to relearn everything like from toddler stages again. Because of course there's that intensity. It absolutely sticks there with anger. The intensities appear again for no reason. Like, what? Deborah cut you off on the highway and now you want to kill her? Like, it's ridiculous. I don't really act in the anger emotions as much as others do, but boy, do I get angry, and boy, can I say some stuff. I look like a complete idiot. Stress-related dissociative states. Roughly 75 to 80% of patients with BPD experience stress-related dissociative states, including depersonalization, derealization, analgesia, analgesia, and emotional numbing. These dissociative symptoms have been linked to poor therapy outcomes in patients with BPD, partly due to their impact on emotional learning and memory. I would probably have to look those up to see what in the world they mean. I didn't even see this. But emotional numbing is in there. Therapy outcomes. That makes sense. That one you'll probably have to research. But I do know about dissociation. Kind of just like disassociating from the world, where you're just completely numb. You don't feel anything. Psychosis can usually rise within the dissociative state, is what my therapist described to me. Like sometimes I would just sit there, stare at a wall, until someone says, "Hey, are you okay?" And then I'm like, "Huh?" Huh? Sometimes that usually happens when I'm just so unbearably stressed that I just stare. And I just can't get out of that. Until like somebody's like, cold water on your face. I guess that's all we got for BPD. After I have talked your ears off. That is the roundup of BPD. Again, it's a trauma disorder. It's not necessarily a chemical imbalance. Well, it is, but it's not, something a medicine can fix. It can help the symptoms for a while, but eventually, once you get off that medicine, our BPD becomes so much worse, and it stays up there for a while until it just goes down back to where it was before. That's why if you have this disorder, I 100% am I'm recommending that you go to EMDR. It is hard, it is rough, it is even scary at first. But remember that all of these emotions are going to get better once you live through your trauma. If you don't, you're too scared, have fun dealing with this for the rest of your life. I eventually got tired of it, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go in there and cry a lot and hate everybody that I remember in my brain, but I'm going to heal, and that's what I did. I actually finally made an appointment, and I did it. And then I stopped. But I got at least a couple months in. So now we're going to go through the bipolar symptoms. This one's a lot shorter. So, okay, that's the difference. Bipolar 2 disorder has at least one major episode and at least one hypomaniac episode, but never a manic episode. Hypomanic, not maniac. Okay, So with bipolar, again, my BPD is the most predominant. My bipolar is not. So mania and hypomania. Mania is more severe than hypomania and causes more noticeable symptoms at work, school, and social activities, as well as relationship difficulties. Mania may also trigger a break from reality, psychosis, and require hospitalization. Both a manic and hypomanic episode include 3 or more of these symptoms: abnormally upbeat, jumpy, or wired. Yes, I kept getting diagnosed with ADHD because of this, because that's all people saw. You know. Okay, let me keep going through this. This will make a lot more sense. Abnormally upbeat, jumpy, or wired, increased activity, energy, or agitation, exaggerated sense of well-being and self-confidence, euphoria, decreased need for sleep, unusual talkativeness, racing thoughts, distractibility, poor decision-making, for example, going on buying sprees, taking sexual risks, or making foolish investments. So again, these are the up and lows of my bipolar and BPD. The difference is I experience these things within a couple hours or so. They don't last for a month or weeks like bipolar does. So being abnormally upbeat, jumpy, or wired, I'm like ready to go. I'm like, yep, let's do this thing for no reason. And it comes with that intense emotion again. The increased energy or agitation, especially, just being like really jumpy, like leave me alone. But I'm also God and trying to accomplish everything. I've never experienced a decreased need for sleep. I have always needed so much sleep. It never gets better. The euphoria, the self-confidence thing, that's what I mentioned earlier, how I was going to go to Barnes & Noble, be God. I'm going to fix myself. I'm going to write into this journal. And then instantly, boom. I don't get that long enough period like a bipolar person normally would to even write in the journal. That's where they come into play, because normally you would get at least like a day worth of that euphoria. And then suddenly you're just like, nope, never again. The racing thoughts and unusual talkativeness. Those two are what really made me think about the bipolar, because that's not necessarily a part of BPD. It definitely can be, but it's more so a bipolar related symptom. Unless it's like the only thing in this list you have, then it could just be your BPD. But the racing thoughts, the feeling distracted, talkativeness, it's like it never stops. I can't stop talking. That's why this video is already at 32 minutes. The racing thoughts, how that goes is I will be sitting here being a normal person, and then it's like voices. Like I don't hear them as if like I'm listening to this video. It's like inside my head. Like words will come across, or I will just keep hearing my own voice say things, but I'm not actually trying to say things. Like I'll think of random pictures or images or people or, full-on sentences, have a full-on conversation with myself in my head. It's like never ending. And sometimes it gets so bad that like I'm irritated, and then it starts to get really deep, starts to get really dark, really negative. And then that's usually where my suicidal ideations come from, because the racing thoughts become so overwhelming that I'm like, stop, and it doesn't stop. I can't calm my mind down, and it just gets dark and negative, and I just start hearing bad things about myself, like, go kill yourself, you're worthless, why are you even here, you will never get away from this is your rest of your life, it's horrible. Manic and hypomanic episode, yeah, they're definitely rough. Now these are major depressive episodes. These have to do with the complete opposite. Depressed moods such as feeling sad, empty, hopeless, or tearful. Marked loss of interest or feeling no pleasure in all or almost all activities. Significant weight loss when not dieting, weight gain, or decrease or increase in appetite. either insomnia or sleeping too much, either restlessness or slowed behavior, fatigue or loss of energy, feelings of worthlessness or excessive inappropriate guilt, decreased ability to think or concentrate or indecisiveness, thinking about, planning, or attempting suicide. So again, the suicide and self-harm comes within like the same, category, BPD and bipolar, except it's a little bit less common in bipolar because usually they get those, the hypo, they get the manic episodes. So they have a time frame where they stop, and then they have a full time frame where they can't stop. So it's like, either or for them. With me, it's right now, suicidal, next time, I'm God. Want to hurt myself, want to help everybody in the world. It's like that. The depressed mood is really intensive because I have the BPD as well. It's like, not just like, can't do anything. It's like the world has crumbled underneath me. Marked loss or interest or feeling no pleasure in all or almost all activities. Another one of the warning signs of the bipolar was when therapists kept asking me, what do you like to do? Of course, I had the emptiness from BPD already. But then I'm like, can I have a list? They just give me a list of 100 things. And I'm like, I don't want to do anything. Significant weight loss or gain. Again, that also comes with BPD, but it's significant. And it comes with both loss and gain. And it could be both at the same time. Like one day dieting, not eating, and then the next day eating too much. Fatigue or loss of energy, and restlessness or slowed behavior. I usually experience the fatigue and loss of energy, and then when I had my mania episodes, I would take advantage of them because when I'm feeling depressive, I can't do anything. The worthlessness or excessive inappropriate guilt. Everything's my fault. I shouldn't even be here. The world would be better off without me. Feeling excessively worthless, like I literally can't do anything. I don't even have a job. I don't have a diploma. Why am I here? I should not be here. Anybody else would be okay without me, Of course, that comes with depression, but excessively. You have to remember these are excessive feelings. That's also where some of the ADHD diagnoses come from. Insomnia or decreased ability to think or concentrate or indecisiveness. I can never make up my mind. Concentrating is very hard. I have gotten better with it over the years, but when I was younger, bye-bye, try to concentrate. Thinking about, planning, or attempting suicide. Again, that comes with both. Psychosis is another very big indication of bipolar when you have these symptoms, and then also psychosis. Because a lot of the times with the racing thoughts, it's considered as psychosis because when we describe it, we can describe it as voices. Because I will sometimes have a spiritual voice where I will do my readings from, and then the other times I can distinguish the two. That's the good thing. But then the other times, it will just be a negative, nasty voice that I don't know where it comes from. It's rude, it's mean, and it's always the same, just negative. Oh, it looked like my hair was black. But yeah, that's about all I've got for you guys. I know this video has been 40 minutes long. If you stick through it this far, thank you. I would really like to hear other people's experiences because I haven't really met anybody like myself. Even if you just have BPD or just bipolar, let me know how different it was. And yeah, I will stop talking. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found it informative at least. And I really hope I didn't talk too much. And I hope somebody views this. I have any, if anyone needs any answers, I'm glad to help with questions. I'll see you all later. Bye.